Hi, welcome to the lecture on Chapter 13, last chapter of the book. When's the last time you finished a textbook? Now, this chapter is on project stakeholder management. Now, we've talked a lot about stakeholders and who they are in this whole project, but the question is, how do I manage them? Why is it important? Well, I guess you can tell that PMBOK, or at least the PMI Institute, decided to create an intelligent knowledge area. So back in 2013, they realized that stakeholders have a major play in how we manage projects. Of course, the purpose of stakeholder project management is identify all the people and organizations that are affected by a project. It doesn't have to be just your boss. It can be customers. It can be financial people. It can be suppliers. It could be a lot of different people that have a stake in the success or failure of your project. Now, projects often cause tons of change. And as projects changes, one of the key roles for project manager is to make sure that everybody is informed, that understands what takes place and who's, sometimes project managers take all the blame, but if a project pays off, the project manager can be the hero. But either way, a project manager's job is to make sure he identifies who the stakeholders are and how to communicate with them, what works best for them. Project managers have been fired for not managing stakeholders very well, and I happen to be one of them. I didn't manage my boss very well on one project, and it cost me. But it's called lesson learned. It does happen. Now, the different processes, one, you got to identify who they are. Everyone that's involved in the project, and then determining what's the best way to manage the relationship. Is it a weekly status meeting? Is it a memo? What is it? You just need to figure out what that communication path is to keep them in the loop. Planning stakeholder management, just what strategies you're going to do to effectively engage. And then, of course, managing that engagement. So week in, week out, the project is progressing, how to make that take place. And then making sure that those relationships stay intact and you're still on good terms with everybody so you don't get fired. Okay, what is in identifying stakeholders? This could be internal and external, project sponsors, the project team, support staffs, internal customers of it, just everybody that could be impacted. Now, external projects, competitors, suppliers, just making sure you look at both inside and outside the project. Sometimes we get focused and only worry about, okay, who's my customer, who's going to receive the product or service, and then my boss. And sometimes if you keep that narrow-minded focus, you can lose out on some major problems with a given project. Now, give you an idea, here's a website that lists other types of stakeholders. Depends on the size of your project. The one that I think is I've had some project managers work for me that their family really took a hit based on the length of the project, where it was located. I had project managers away from home a long time. So it does come into play in that being away from home does have an impact on the project, or at least the quality of work that's being performed. And that's part of your job as a manager, as a project manager, to make sure that does take place. Now, also to focus on stakeholders, with direct ties, key suppliers and stuff. So a lot of different people and different ways to do it. Now, what's a stakeholder register? I just need to make sure I got a list of who they are and what information about them, names, ranks, serial numbers, contact information, an assessment, what are their requirements and expectation? Are they internal, external? Just some categories that you may want to just keep all in one document so that you're sure you've got everybody covered. Now, there are ways of classifying stakeholders. One of them is a power interest grid. And it basically just says, hey, I need to make sure I understand this stakeholder, how much power they have and how much interest or concern they have on the project outcomes. So both of those you just kind of put them on a grid and then just kind of say, okay, item person 1 on my list is, high interest, high power, so it's my boss and he's got a lot of financial at stake. So I want to make sure that number 1 is taken care of. But it's just a way of categorizing the different stakeholders in a project. Now, not all stakeholders are engaged on a project the same level. You've got some that are totally unaware the project exists or even impacts them. You got some that are definitely resistant. I don't want to change. This project's going to make me lose my job. I have to learn something new. I have to travel. Whatever the case may be, somebody's going to be pushing back and not wanting to do it. Some are neutral. And neutral is a little bit different than unaware. Unaware, you just have no knowledge. But neutral is, I'm aware, but I don't care. I really don't see an impact. I don't see it's going to affect me. I'm not going to resist it, but I'm just kind of in between. Of course, supportive, you definitely is, hey, I'm aware of the project. I'm supportive of the change. It's a good thing to do. And then, of course, leading is, hey, I'm aware of the project. We're going for it. Let's go. I see tons of benefit. So there's different ways of engagement of each of the stakeholders. Now, how do I plan, this management? I got to manage these people. One, I got to make sure I identify who the stakeholders are, the teams that they may affect. And then I just got to make sure of what's the worst best, whether it's making sure I understand their engagement level, the interrelationship between stakeholders, what's their communication requirements. Your boss may want a weekly update, maybe wants a status report, maybe wants a conference call, maybe wants to attend a meeting. So just making sure you understand what each method of updating, and you may say, hey, wait a minute, I got 17 different stakeholders and 17 different ways of managing it. You may have to negotiate with the stakeholders, say, hey, we're going to do it this way, and kind of get them all to get to some consensus. Because the last thing you want to do is spend all your time just communicating with stakeholders versus managing the project. So you may have to, even though you've got different types of communication requirements, you may have to negotiate something different. But that's part of the plan. Now, you got to be careful about sensitive information, because it may be information that competitors would love to have. It may piss off some people, so you want to make sure that some parts of this project stakeholder engagement may not be written down. Maybe distribution is very limited. I'm going to only give certain financial information to my boss and the CFO. So you just got to make sure that you understand what's sensitive and how much you're willing to let go of some of that information. Now, how do I manage this engagement with the stakeholders? I mean, it's basically, project, success is measured by, is the customer and sponsor satisfied? Yes or no? Project sponsors, they'll often rank what's more important to them. Is it the scope, the time, the cost that's more important to them? Some will say everything's important, and of course you can't manage everything. So you're just making sure you understand what each stakeholder's engagement, what their ranking is, so that you can help with that expectation. The next thing is, when issues arise, when problems arise, when you need to make sure that you document them in an issue log. And it's just basically a document of what are the issues that need resolving. You're not recording every single thing that's happening. As a project manager, I usually did a lot of that, but I also kept an action register, an issue log that says, hey, these changes need to be done by so-and-so by a certain date. And then those are things I followed up on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, whatever the case may have been. So you just want to make sure you record all the work that needs to be done. Now, some of the best practices, managing the stakeholders can be probably one of the more complicated bits of project management. But you got to make sure you're clear right from the beginning. They understand the consequences. and make sure you got a contingency plan when something does happen. And definitely avoid surprises, especially to your boss. They don't like surprises. And then also, you may have to take a stand. You may have to be the one to say, hey, this is the issue. We need it resolved. We need it done by now. And really can't, you just got to do it. Now, how do I control this? I mean, I can't control the stakeholders, but I can control their level of engagement. Sometimes the stakeholder will get in, they say, yep, I'm important, but they kind of leave the project. Or not leave, mentally they just kind of check out. Yeah, they're on the list, but they're not engaged in day-to-day communication. They're not engaged in project status meetings. They're not engaged in communicate. So we need to make sure that each of your project stakeholders, you understand how to keep them engaged. So you just want to make sure that the proper tone, proper expectations at the start of a project is known, what your communication plan is, contingency, so that you can kind of make sure that stakeholders know what's expected of them. How do I want to control it? I can do it with a kickoff meeting. And it isn't just a matter of I want them to participate. I just want them to show up at a kickoff meeting. And just remember what a kickoff meeting is. That's where you're laying out the expectation, what's to be done for the project. I want them to come in prepared to participate. I just don't want them to attend, be a butts in seat, say, yep, I was at the kickoff meeting, I signed on the document. I want them engaged. Now, I can emphasize dialogue at a meeting, but I can use text, email, whatever case may be, to make sure that all the stakeholders have information there. So project schedules should include activities, deliverables, stakeholder surveys. All this stuff should be in the project plan. Now, stakeholders as key project team members, some IT projects could be invited to this meeting. So you got a couple of examples with Northwest Airlines. They started, reviewing reservation agents as well as programmers on the team. So they started including people that are going to use the project as well as everything else. Now, there are some software out there. One of your program assignments is I want to have you do something with LinkedIn. If you have a membership, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just another social media site. But this one's business related with a lot of different groups and project managers, a lot of different groups of different businesses. And in your career, I think it's a good thing to be on. So you're going to be logging into LinkedIn and go through. Some customers have Facebook page to kind of match it. So both of these are ways of, software that can help engage people. Globally, you can tell, countries have scrapped billions projects because, wasn't high profile enough, or cancel a project, managers back to school, partner with, how do I get back? So how do we get? So it's definitely knowing this topic is important. It's got a whole knowledge area. You got to identify the stakeholders. You got to plan their management. You got to manage them, and you got to control the engagement. So hopefully this helped you understand a little bit of stakeholder management. And if not, you know how to get a hold of me. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.